Hey everyone, it's Tonka Joey again, and I thought this thing where I just kind of react to different writing posts and memes and stuff is kind of fun. And some of you guys seem to really enjoy it. So I am here on Tumblr. I'm on the right blur tag, obviously. Combining writing and Tumblr. So I figured we'd just scroll through it for a little bit, see some posts and talk about them. And hopefully have a little laugh or a little learning. So it turns out my writing process is mess around and find out. I just wish finding out happened faster. That is certainly one way of writing. And it's a valid way, I think. Sometimes you plan things out a lot. You have these in a chapter or the entire story. You have everything planned out exactly before you start writing. Other times you give yourself room to just kind of let whatever happen. And that's when some really interesting things can occur that you wouldn't have necessarily thought of while planning. It's just very spur of the moment, writing on a whim, shoving every little idea you've got in the story and seeing what comes out of it. Of course, sometimes you don't know what should come out of it after all, and that can be frustrating, but you know, we wish the finding out part happened faster. If you just keep going with it, I think some of the more random ideas that I put in stories that I didn't think of ahead of time, I just, I was writing the scene and then I thought, we'll make this thing happen. Why not? I'm feeling compelled to do this. Then that little thing sometimes has become a very interesting recurring theme throughout the rest of the entire story. Some writers will try to say, why do you use foul language when there's so much more extravagant, fanciful, and majestic words? Beyond just being a shallow ploy, your job as a writer isn't to use the biggest word, it's to use the right words. And sometimes the right word is ass. I'm someone who would prefer to have characters not be swearing because I like to try to keep it family friendly if I can. But sometimes you're writing a story where that is just the right thing for a character to do. Especially if you are, writing a fan fiction for something where the characters swear a lot. It does really help emphasize that you are writing about those characters and the way that they actually speak. I think it's important to write freely if you have that option, to not hold yourself back from writing something because you think it's too much. You think it's too inappropriate or too violent or too crass or whatever. Let your ideas out. That's a lot better than holding yourself back because you think you need to censor yourself. Don't censor yourself, because it won't feel good, and you won't be writing the story that you actually wanted to write if you prevent yourself from doing something like a character swearing, even though you're like, man, this character would totally say this word here, but I can't put that in the story. Unless, you are trying to create something for a specific audience. Like if you're writing a picture book for children, obviously, yes, don't put that word in there. In other cases, especially if you're just writing for yourself, even if you're a reserved person, like I'm a pretty reserved person, so sometimes it feels hard to write that into a story that I know people are going to read. Like, oh, are they gonna see me differently now? I'm so uncouth or whatever. Don't do that. Just write what you are feeling called to write. And it will feel good, and it will feel right when you read it back, and that word, and even if it's not the sweetest, most innocent little word out there, it will just feel so perfect and right when you read it back, and you're like, yes, that was the word necessary to make this scene what it is. Does that make any sense? Basically, just do not censor yourself, unless, obviously, you are writing for something very specific that needs to be a certain clean way. Just don't censor yourself otherwise, because you think it would be unprofessional or you don't want people to see you in that way. If people equate what your characters are doing to what you are in real life, then that's their problem. It's not your problem. And, just write it. Literally, just write it. I've written my characters into a tight corner so they can escape it to demonstrate their ingenuity. But I forgot one key detail. That escape is to be written by me, an idiot. That is true. It's hard when you want a character to be intelligent or clever or even just funny. I struggle with it if I'm writing a scene and a character needs to be funny, and I realize that I don't have a good enough sense of humor that I can write that. If I need a character to make another character laugh, it's probably not going to make the reader laugh. And they're probably going to be like, why did this character even think that what they said was funny? Well, because the writer isn't funny, so they just tried their best. So yeah, if you need a character to come up with a clever plan, if they need to be smart and intelligent, then you realize, well, if I was in this situation, I'd probably be sobbing in the corner, not coming up with a clever plan. Then yeah, you've really gotta brainstorm a lot to figure out what a smart character could do when you yourself are not smart. You cannot relate to them. PSA, just a friendly reminder that whenever you start a creative project, you will invariably hit a phase where the thing appears horrendous, and you start asking existential questions. But if you keep working, it invariably passes, and starts to resemble something less like the devil's vomit. Doesn't matter if it's art, writing, or what, this happens repeatedly. Carry on. Yes, a lot of the times we get into the middle of something and then we start realizing, I don't know about this. I think this was a horrible idea. Look at this. It's trash. This is just a giant dumpster fire. But sometimes we just gotta keep pushing through it and work at it anyway. There was a story I was writing the end of last year, and in the middle of it I was just like, this whole thing sucks. I should get rid of it. It is offering nothing of value. It is just weird. It's just a weird conversation between two characters that I'm writing in a weird way. It's just not right. Nothing is right with this. But I carried through and I finished it and I put it out into the world. And I guess we can look here. 44 kudos on AO3, which if you don't know is like their likes. Yeah, I thought it was so bad at the time, but I just kept writing. I got it out there, and hey, 44 people thought it was good enough to give it a like, so sometimes you just gotta keep trying, and it will turn out well. There's a Tumblr post floating around somewhere that says, we think that if we get better at writing, it will someday stop sounding like we wrote it, or something along those lines. This sounds really accurate to how I feel a lot of the times, where I wish that what I wrote doesn't sound like I wrote it. And I think the solution is not to start writing in a way that doesn't sound like we wrote it, because obviously that's not ever really going to happen, but we just need to learn to love how we write. I think a good thing to do when that starts happening is to start reading a lot more and read a lot of different styles, because obviously when we're writing extensively, all we're really doing is reading our own style back to ourselves, so we get tired of it, and we need to keep feeding our brains different writing styles so that it doesn't get bored. Does that make any sense? I don't even know, but just like, I think we hate our writing style because it's so saturated in our brains, because that's what we see all the time, and it's good to take a break from it and read something else. And it's also important to just learn to like things in what we write. Instead of thinking, oh, I write sentences like this all the time. Oh, I'm so repetitive. Ugh, my writing sucks. I wish I wrote like someone else. When I bet there's someone out there who thinks your writing style is really cool, and they wish they wrote like you. You know how people say, like, it's like build your confidence. Every day you should look in the mirror and say, like, one new thing that you like about yourself. I think we should do that with our writing, too. We should read our stories and pull up one of the old things you wrote. Read through it. And instead of being like, oh, look at this cringe I wrote 10 years ago. No, instead we should go through something we wrote and be like, you know, this this sentence or this paragraph or whatever, this word choice, that was a good thing that I did. And we'll start learning to like our writing style more. Friends to lovers, never had a bad track. Scared I'll ruin what we have, slaps. Friendship cuddles while secretly dying inside, banger. Teasing each other and holding eye contact for a little too long, kills me. And don't even get me started on screaming I love you in the middle of a heated argument. Now this is obviously very specific to like reluctant friends to lovers, but I also just want to talk about how it relates to something, I think maybe I mentioned it in an old Wrightler video. Don't let anyone ever say that having tropes in something, you know, all these like little cliche moments, is bad. Because tropes exist for a reason. People kept writing these things because people liked to read them. So don't think that a cliche is automatically bad. It could be cliche because it's good. People like to read it. If you think your friends to lovers story is too tropey, that's fine. Because there are thousands of people who think that that is going to be the funnest thing they could possibly read. And they're going to be so grateful that you wrote all of their favorite little things into this story. You will bring your own originality to it with your writing style and your other plot ideas and stuff like that. Cliche doesn't mean bad. Sometimes we can say something is cliche in a bad way, if we think it's just a cop-out or really unoriginal, but with things like this, with romance, it's just because that's what people love to read in their romance stories. So go for it, you know? It's like you're following a cake recipe, and it's a flavor that everyone loves, okay? You're making like a chocolate cake, and you know that there's tons and tons of people who love chocolate cake, and you're adding your own frosting and decorations that make it uniquely your own, and they add so much more to the cake. Does that make any sense? I'm coming up with the weirdest like analogies. But yeah, just don't think, oh, 1,000 other people have already written this, I don't need to write more. No, 1,000 people wrote it because it was so great, so yeah, add another one to the pile, please. There are very few hard and fast rules of good writing, but one hill I will die on is that if you foreshadow something, then change your plans just because fans figured out where you were going. You're doing it wrong. Yes, you should not change something because someone figured it out. The fact that they figured it out meant that you foreshadowed it well. You know, maybe you were a little too obvious, but maybe you would just actually provided all of the perfect necessary hints for someone to naturally figure it out on their own. You know, it's like they're solving a mystery. You don't want to leave out all the clues for someone to solve the mystery and then go, you weren't supposed to solve the mystery. I'm gonna change the ending, so you weren't right. No, you left the clues for a reason, and we're supposed to figure it out. So if someone guesses what's going on in your story, you should consider it a huge compliment to yourself that you were able to leave the necessary breadcrumbs to get people's brains, get the gears turning, so that they would think about your story and put the puzzle pieces together and figure out the answer. It means you did it well, yes. If you foreshadow something and the person understands, that is good. The foreshadowing is supposed to be understandable, either so the person knows ahead of time or so they get to the point of, you know, the reveal and then they're like, oh wait, how did I miss this? This was so obvious earlier. You want your fans to have it figured out. And I hate it when there's like a mystery and either they just don't tell you the answer or all the foreshadowing literally led to nothing. But it's not even a red herring, like distracting you from the truth. It's literally there for no reason. I hate that. But yeah, if you're gonna give a foreshadowing, please make it result in something that makes sense. Don't just ignore it, and don't just randomly change it because you want it to be extra surprising. That's not the fun of the mystery. The fun of the mystery is figuring it out with the characters as they go along, right? I wish all writers a very, I love you and I'm proud of you. Isn't that so sweet? And I agree with it. thank you, writers of the world, for sharing your ideas with us all on your writing and, you know, the little pieces of you that you put in all those words. Thank you for letting us be a part of that by letting us read them. And we are very proud of you for putting in all that time and effort to getting your ideas on the page. You know, it can be tiring. It can be a lot of work, but you stuck with it because you were passionate about it. And we are very proud of you for finishing what you have done. And we love you. Thank you for sharing your writing journey with us. And yeah, good post, good post. A quote by Neil Gaiman. Fiction gives us empathy. It puts us inside the minds of other people, gives us the gift of seeing the world through their eyes. Fiction is a lie that tells us true things over and over. I think that is a beautiful, wonderful quote. Fiction is a lie that tells us true things over and over. It is very true. Obviously, fiction is not reality. These are not real things happening, but through them, we see pieces of reality. We see pieces of the author. We see pieces of how they see the world, experiences they've gone through, things they've felt, even though they're not directly telling us these things. They are showing them to us indirectly. Definitely, with so many different things, you can read them and start to slowly pick up on how the author might think, what kind of person they might be, and that's really interesting and so great, because even if we're reading about something that's totally implausible, it's just something really crazy and out of this world, we can still kind of learn a little thing here and there about humanity and, you know, our fellow humans and how they see things. It's really important to have other perspectives in our lives. So yeah, I think reading is a great thing to get your ideas out there and give them to other people, even though you're telling them through a fictional story. And that is one of the many, many beauties of writing, and I love it. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope it was entertaining or made you think or made you feel inspired. I thought we looked at some good posts in here today. Thank you to everybody who watches these videos and comments on them and just has a good time. I'm glad I got to entertain you. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and you enjoyed this, or check out my channel. I have other types of videos too. Yeah, have a wonderful day. And should I do my my outro I came up with in the last video? This is Joey, hopping on out. Farewell, my writing friends and non-writing friends alike.